Hi, I'm Whitney with Belliboos Designs, and today I'm going to show you how to create our Santa towel topper.
For this project, you'll need a medium weight tearaway stabilizer, a lightweight or thin kitchen towel cut in half, coordinating embroidery thread, fabric for the hat, face, buckle, and mustache, 3/4 inch ribbon for the hanging loop, 1.5 inch ribbon for the belt, straight pins, masking tape, cam snaps, and fray check or a lighter. Before you begin, make sure that the speed of your embroidery machine is at the slowest possible. For my Elagio, it is set at 350 stitches per minute.
First thing you want to do is take 2 layers of tearaway stabilizer and go ahead and hoop it. Attach your hoop to your embroidery unit and open up the design. Once the design's open, make sure that it's turned so that the bottom of the towel is going to be on the edge of the hoop that is away from the embroidery unit where you're attached to the machine. Now go ahead and run your placement stitch for the towel. Now remove the towel, or remove the frame from the embroidery machine and add your towel. Now that your placement stitch is complete, remove your hoop from your embroidery machine. You're going to want to take your towel, which I've used a very thin waffle weave towel that I found at Target, and I'm going to place my corners or the edges of my towels right in the corners of the placement stitch. And I want to pin it down here low, right on the edge, to help keep that in place and secure in my corners. Now that the edges of the towel are pinned, I want to take the rest of the towel, the inside part, and I'm going to gather it as evenly as possible across the rest of my placement stitches. And if it goes above the top edge of this just a little bit, it's not a problem. Once I've got it as evenly as spaced as possible, I'm going to take a piece of my masking tape and I'm going to tape down along this bottom edge. You might want to take a book or a sewing weight if you have one and place it down on the up here on the pleats and your gathered stitches to kind of help hold them in place. And now that I have the tape in place along the bottom, I'm going to take another piece of stabilizer and I'm going to lay it on top, and again I'm going to tape that in place as well. And tape it once over here on this edge. Again on this edge. And I'm going to tape across the top, making sure that it's not going to hit my placement stitches. And then again towards the bottom, just to hold that in place, and just kind of push your towel down just slightly, and now you're going to add it back to the hoop back to your machine. Now that your hoop is reattached to the machine, go ahead and run the tack down stitch for the towel. As I do it, I'm going to sit and help hold the towel down just slightly to keep the foot from getting snagged. stabilizer on top of the towel will also help keep the gathers in your towel from getting caught in the embroidery foot. Now that this is complete, I'm going to again take the hoop off the machine. Now that the placement or the tack down stitch is complete, I'm going to take this top piece of tape off. And I'm also going to just lightly and gently tear off the top of the stabilizer above. I'm going to trim off these little shreds, stray strands of the towel. And now I'm going to add the hoop back to the machine. Now that my hoop is back on the machine, I want to run the next steps to add the fabric for the face of Santa. Now with any traditional applique design, you're going to trim around the excess fabric. Now it's time to add Santa's hat. Now you're going to trim the fabric around the hat. The final pieces of applique are to add Santa's hat accents and his mustache. if you need to. Push down on the towel to help keep it away from the embroidery foot. Go ahead and trim any jump stitches you may encounter. And then add your fabric. The Minky Dot, I usually hold it down to help keep it in place on the first pass. Again, press down on the towel if you need to help keep it out of the way. Now that the tack down for the accents on the hat and your mustache are finished, you're going to want to trim your fabric again. I like to, for the face here, I'm going to lightly pull up on my fabric and poke into it and make a little snip so that I don't get the fabric underneath. And I want to trim out the face area. And if you notice, I've used a light blue thread for my placement and tack down stitches. This is to help me so I can see, but also to give y'all guidelines and allow you to better see. Usually I use white. And even though you have the stabilizer on top, just be careful that you don't actually accidentally snag the stabilizer and grab the towel with your scissors. Now that my applique pieces are in place, it's time to add the facial accents. I've gone ahead and changed my thread, so now we're using a white thread, and it's going to stitch the eyebrows for Santa. Now that Santa's face is complete, you're going to take your hoop and you're going to turn it upside down. You want to take your piece of ribbon that you've cut. Mine, I usually cut between 6 and 8 inches, and you're going to place it on the back side, centered on Santa's hat, and then you're going to tape it in place. Make sure that it's above the stitches so that your machine doesn't get snagged in the tape, because it can gum up your needles. Now I'm going to pull my ribbon back just slightly to keep it out of the way of the stitches, but also from attaching back to your embroidery unit. Once the ribbon's in place, now I'm going to take my fabric for the backing and I'm going to cover up Santa's face. With most of my designs, I will go ahead and add the cam snap to the fabric beforehand, but with all the extra satin stitches that go in place after, I don't want to risk my needle hitting the cam snap, so I'm going to add the cam snap after this step, or after it's complete, and then that's going to create Santa's nose. So now that I have my fabric in place, I'm just going to tape it to secure it. You can also pin it, but I like to tape. The next step is to run a run stitch around the full outline to attach the back fabric to your design. And again, you may want to kind of help hold that towel down. Now that my placement stitches, or my tack down stitch is in place, I want to untape the fabric. And I'm going to go ahead and trim around. Just be careful that as you come around the top, that you don't grab the ribbon. Now with it trimmed, we're going to put the hoop back on the machine. Now that my backing is in place, it's time to run the satin stitch around your design. Now that hat's finished, the mouth is going to stitch. And again, just help support that towel. Press it down a little bit to keep it out of the way of the foot of your embroidery machine. Now that the Santa face is complete, it's time to carefully remove the design from your hoop. So I want to untape that top piece of stabilizer and just carefully and gently remove it. Go ahead and remove this piece of tape as well. And then unpin the towel. Once it's unpinned, then go ahead and pop it out of the hoop. Take the tape off from the back of your ribbon also. And then carefully tear away the stabilizer. It's also okay to use a cutaway, but I'm always afraid I'm going to snip my stitches, so I use a tearaway. My tape stabilizer is removed. I'm going to trim up these jumps in the back. And it's time to add my snap. To do this, I'm going to take my little tool. It kind of looks like an ice pick, a small ice pick, and I want to go right about there, just slightly above the center of the mustache. I'm going to poke it all the way through. Now I want the flat side on top because I want it to snap in the back. Go ahead and press it through. And this part's kind of tricky because you're going to kind of have to bunch the Santa face up to be able to sit it into your tool. Turn it over to the other side. Place the other piece on top. So it looks like that. You see? And then I'm going to clamp down. Good and tight. And now you have Santa's nose and the snap on the actual towel. I'm going to go ahead and measure. I want to put my snap about right here. So again, I'm going to take my tool, I'm going to poke it through. Now you want the flat side on the top of the ribbon. If you put it up underneath, then your snap's not going to match up. Go ahead and add it to your tool. Take the other piece of your snap, place it on top, and again, press it. Now that's in place, I'm going to cut off some of this extra ribbon. So I don't have such a long tail. And now to keep this end from fraying, you can either use a lighter or you can use fray check to seal the ends. I prefer a lighter personally. Just going to seal that end up. And now my Santa's complete.